Part 2. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 11. Chapter 11, Taking Feng to See a Doctor. After the four brothers looked at Feng, they left the room and went back to their room without even looking at Yu Dahai. Yuan hugged Xiao Qi, and Xiao Lu pulled her clothes. "Let's go, Xiao Lu, let's go back to bed and come back tomorrow." She looked at Yu Dahai and saw that there was no worry on his face. She shook her head. "Dad, pay attention to Mom, you should go to bed quickly." After saying that, he carried Xiao Qi out of the room and returned to the room where they lived. Yuan came back and prepared Xiaoliu and Xiaoqi to go to bed. She lay on the bed unable to fall asleep. She lives in this body again and must inherit all the causes and effects of this body. This is a matter of principle. She has the ability to make the family live well, and this is only if she is there. What if she suddenly disappears one day? It is not impossible that it is possible. It is also very possible that he suddenly came and disappeared suddenly. It is better to teach a man to fish than to teach him to fish. This principle remains unchanged throughout the ages. She must make plans to take Feng to see a doctor tomorrow, then go to Yaxing to see if there is any house for sale or rent, and arrange a place to stay first. Everything else can be discussed later. As for what she will do here in the future, she still doesn't know. In her previous life, she only learned some killing skills and didn't know how to do business or politics. Ask her to kill someone, and she has hundreds of ways to make him die in minutes, but it is impossible for her to kill people here every day. She doesn't understand politics. She doesn't understand it. She doesn't understand business. It is not difficult for her to survive in this backward world, but she still has a large family. Hey, my head hurts. Yuan thought about it a lot, and the only things she could do well here were hunting and farming. Needless to say, hunting is something I have the skills to do. As for farming, in her previous life, when she was a child, her family grew up in a rural area, but her father was a special personnel of the state. Later, when she was 10 years old, she was sent to a special department to receive special training. Hey, she couldn't sleep anymore thinking about her parents. She didn't know if they could survive the news that she had been bombed. Yuan saw that the two children were completely asleep, so she tucked them in and entered the space. She entered the wooden house and smelled the air in the space, which made her feel particularly comfortable. Yuan couldn't sleep anyway, so she just flipped through the books in the bookcase. She took out a book, which was a collection of poems. The font was in small seal script, but luckily she recognized it. She put it down and took out another one, which was the classic of 10,000 Herbs. This book is good. She sat on the bed and read it. The book records the medicinal uses of herbs, their growth environment, and their maturity period, with both pictures and texts. They are very detailed, and there are corresponding prescriptions at the back. Even she, who knew nothing about it, understood a little bit after reading it. As she watched, she tilted her head and fell asleep. Yuan had a good sleep. When she opened her eyes, she was startled and hurriedly came out of the room. Hey, it's still dark outside, Yuan couldn't react. She had been reading in the space for so long and was still full from sleep. It's still dark outside, which just means the time is different. When it was dark, she returned to the space again. There was no distinction between night and day in the space. It was always daytime and there was no need for lighting, so she could continue reading. It was finally dawn outside, and Yuan got up. The two children had not yet fallen asleep. She got up and washed herself. After mixing the spiritual spring water in the space into the kettle in the inn, she put 3 plates of fruit on the table. This kind of fruit is called Qingling fruit in the Wankojeng. It is a kind of spiritual fruit. Mortals eat it to strengthen their body. People who practice martial arts eat it for a long time to help improve their skills. It is a highly sought-after medicine. Yuan estimated that Feng's reaction was probably due to the effects of the green spirit fruit and spiritual spring water. In other words, Ms. Feng herself is suffering from some disease, and her current state is not her normal state. Thinking of this, Yuan let out a long sigh of relief. It was just a disease that could be cured. If that's the nature, there's nothing you can do about it. Just like the situation when Yu Dahai met Feng last night, he was not worried. Although I still don't know what kind of person Yu Dahai is, it can be seen that he is a cold person. Well, fourth sister, Xiaoliu's voice sounded. Xiaolu is awake, come here, fourth sister will help you get dressed. Yuan saw Xiaolu getting up and sitting on the bed, still rubbing her eyes with her hands. No need, Xiaoliu will wear it by herself when Xiaoliu grows up, the fourth sister will wear it for Xiaoqi. Xiaolu rustled and started to put it on by himself. Yuan touched Xiaoliu's head. This little girl was so sensible that it made people feel distressed. Well, be good, Xiaolu, she kissed the little girl's face. Giggle. Xiaoliu giggled with great enjoyment. Fourth sister, Xiaoqi also got out of the quilt at this time. Yuan also hugged Xiaoqi and kissed him on the face, which made Xiaoqi look so embarrassed and made Xiaolu giggle again. Yuan dressed Xiaoqi, washed her face and hands, drank water and ate some fruit. Today, I met the two children and they were in good spirits, especially Xiaoqi, who started playing with Xiaolu. Deduction, when the door remembered, the small six-way ran 2 steps and shouted, "It's brother." When I opened the door, I saw that it was the 4 Yuhairan brothers, followed by a waiter carrying a tray. "Xiao Sier, haven't you eaten in the morning?" Yuhairan asked as he entered the door. "Well, Xiaoqi has just dressed this, have you eaten it?" Yuan asked to put breakfast on the table, and then the waiter withdrew. The 4 brothers nodded and said they had eaten. Yu Hao carried Xiaoqi onto a stool and sat down, while Yu Haoshan and Yu Haoshan took care of Xiaolu and Xiaoqi to eat. Yuan asked Yu Hairan to send the fruit to Yu Dahai's room to see how Feng was doing. She just sat on the stool. In the morning, the inn prepared a bowl of porridge, 2 steamed buns and a plate of kimchi for each person. She also picked up the bowl and started eating. After breakfast, the brothers and sisters all took the fruits and gnawed them as they walked to Yu Dahai's room. It happened that the 3 of them also came out. Yuan looked at Yu Dahai. He was walking at the end with a melancholy look on his face. Yu Hairan supported Fengshi. Today, Fengshi's complexion was a little better. Although her eyes were still dull, they were obviously not as serious as yesterday. She also stepped forward to hold Feng's hand. When she first took it, Feng had some resistance, so she said, "Mom, I'm Xiao Sier, come on, let's go shopping." Sure enough, Mrs. Feng no longer resisted, but instead held Yuan's hand. Yuan was a little surprised. It seemed that the things in the space were very useful to Feng. "Let's go for a walk." Yuan held Xiaoliu's other hand, and Yu Hao held Xiaoqi in his arms. Yu Haoshan held Xiao's hand, and everyone followed Yuan and the others happily. Only Yu Dahai followed behind with a grimace. The family came out of the inn. The weather today was a bit sultry, and there were not many people walking on the street. Everyone had gone to the early market and went home as soon as the sun was not so hot. Yongantang is not far from the inn, just a stick of incense is there. While walking on the road, Yuan kept paying attention to Feng and saw that she was not aware of the things around her and just followed Yu Hairan. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 12. Chapter 12 Teeth. Looking at the little guys, they were chattering very happily all the way, and their faces no longer had the hesitation they had at the old house. Environment can change a person, Yuan sighed in her heart. In just one day and one night, it can be said that the momentum of this family has undergone earth-shaking changes, except for Yu Dahai. Yuan saw Yu Dahai's appearance. His heart was not in this family. She predicted that Yu Dahai would definitely cause trouble once his family gets better. Yuan's eyes darkened. If she got into trouble and became a monster like Yu Yang, she would take necessary measures when necessary. While walking, Yong'an Hall arrived. The brother and sister helped Feng into Yong'an Hall. Several brothers and sisters also came in behind. Entering Yong'an Hall, there was only the old doctor on the counter, reading a book. Seeing that it was Yuan and others, he quickly stood up. "Little girl, it's you." "Yes, doctor, this is my mother, please take a look." Yuan asked Feng to sit on the stool next to the diagnosis table. Ms. Feng sat down, but she did not let go of Yuan's hand. The old doctor also sat down and motioned to Feng to put the medical bag on her wrist. Ms. Feng did not respond, so Yuan put her right hand on the medical bag. "Doctor, my mother is like this, she doesn't respond to anything, but she doesn't have a brain problem." The old doctor was stunned and frowned. He put his hand on Feng's pulse and began to diagnose it. Yuan saw the old doctor's doubtful expression, and his expression became worse and worse, and finally became angry. After a long time, the old doctor took a deep breath and said with a trembling voice, "Little girl, your mother has been suffering from this disease for more than 10 years, right?" "Well, this is my mother," Yuan asked. The old doctor was silent for a while and said, "Little girl, your mother's disease is very complicated and not something you understand, but I will try my best to treat your mother." Yuan was puzzled. The old doctor's behavior was a bit strange. She didn't think much about it, thinking that she was excited when she saw a difficult patient. What many highly skilled medical practitioners like most is strange and bizarre illnesses. I heard that the old doctor is willing to treat it, so he should be able to cure it. Seeing the old doctor's expression just now, it seems that he has seen this kind of disease before. So Yuan asked, "Doctor, we will bring him here every day. Shall we start treatment today?" The old doctor stood up at this moment and said, "Let's go to the back hall and stay here first. I have to observe for a few more days. What do you think?" Of course it's possible, Yuan thought, why do we need to observe it for a few days? But it's whatever the old doctor says. You have to give it a try. They just have to follow the doctor's advice. The brother and sister followed the old doctor into a single room, which only had a bed and a chair, which was even simple. As the old doctor asked, he helped Feng to go to bed and lie down. The old doctor gave an explanation and went out. The brothers and sisters didn't know what was going on, so they had to sit in the room and wait. About half an hour later, the old doctor brought a bowl of steaming medicine and said, "Drink your mother while it's hot and let her fall asleep. I'll come back again." Yu Heiran took the medicine bowl and fed Feng Shi spoonful by spoonful. At this moment, Feng held Yuan's hand and let go. She took the opportunity to follow the old doctor out. "Doctor, my mother's illness is a problem for you. How much does it cost for consultation and medicine?" As he walked, the old doctor said, "The medical expenses are not urgent. I want to know if there are any medicinal herbs around the ginseng you sold last time." "Well, I didn't pay attention to this. The ginseng was dug in her space, and there were many herbs around it, and they were elixirs." Yuan frowned. What does this old doctor want with that herbal medicine? Could it be that he saw the difference in that ginseng? "Oh, forget it. If you don't have it, if you see it again, you can sell it to me and I can charge a high price." "Okay," Yuan agreed, feeling very uneasy in her heart. Herbs with spiritual energy must be able to cure Feng's disease. The old doctor must have seen Feng's disease alone. Her previous guess was right. Yuan saw Feng Shi sleeping deeply, so she asked Yu Dahai and the others to watch Feng Shi in the Yong'an Hall, and specifically told Yu Heiran that the old doctor would be coming over soon, so he must remember what the old doctor said. She left Yong'an Hall and walked around the town. Suddenly, a dental shop appeared in front of her. Yuan stood for a while and then entered the dental shop. A middle-aged steward was dozing in the dental shop when he saw a little girl coming in. He said angrily, "What are you doing here, little girl? This is a dental clinic, please listen carefully." Yuan didn't care about the manager's attitude. After all, she was just a little girl. It was normal for her to think she had gone to the wrong place when going to another dental clinic. "Manager, do you have any houses for rent or houses for sale?" "What, little girl, I heard that right?" The person in charge thought that he heard wrongly. "Isn't this a joke that a little girl wants to rent a house but also wants to buy a house?" "You heard me right, tell me if you have a manager here or not." "If not, I'll have to find another one," Yuan said calmly. Yes, little girl, please follow me into the inner hall for a sip of tea." "I'll talk to the girl slowly." The steward saw that Yuan didn't speak like a child at all. Yuan followed the steward into the inner hall, and a busboy immediately brought him a cup of tea. Yuan sat opposite the steward. The steward took out a book and asked Yuan, "If the little girl wants to rent, there are houses for rent on South Street, West Street, and North Street, but the prices are different." "I believe that little girl wants to rent." "Girl, do you understand?" Yuan nodded. The manager then said, "If you want to buy it, there is a 3-in-2 house on South Street, facing the street, which is convenient for traveling. The other one is at the end of West Street, at the foot of Daking Mountain, and there is a 150-acre farm. The little girl wants to." "What kind do you want?" "Yuan, does the house on South Street depend on the private school in the town?" "Yes, does anyone in the little girl's family want to go to private school?" "Well, my brother." Yuan thought that the house was so big that it could accommodate just one of them, and it was easy to get in and out. "Well, little girl, you can actually rent it for 3 taels of silver per month. If you buy it, it will cost you 600 taels. In fact, the little girl can consider the place on North Street. It is also a 3-in-2 house. The owner asks for the price. The rent is 2 taels per month, and it's much cheaper to buy it, and you can get it done for 400 taels. Yuan did not reply to him. "Manager, you said there is a Zhuangzi on North Street, tell me about that Zhuangzi." The manager in charge was worried in his heart. This little girl didn't seem to be joking, but why did she just ask? He frowned. "Little girl, that Zhuangzi is a bit far away from the private school. Let me tell you the truth. That Zhuangzi is not peaceful. People often come into the Zhuangzi to steal chickens and dogs. This sneaking. It's next to the place where the gangsters gather. It should be those people who come to the door to cause trouble." Then he strongly recommended the house on North Street, and it turned out to be a businessman. When Yuan was walking on the street just now, she almost touched all 4 streets in the town. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 13. Chapter 13, Bought a House and Bought People. East Street is the wealthy area of the town, and South Street has shops and private schools. West Street is the street from Yong'an Hall. You can buy everything on the street. There are shops and a market on the first half of North Street. The people living in the second half are basically the gangsters of this town, living off the so-called protection fees. How much silver does the village sell it for? Young girl, you want to buy something? The master needs it urgently, so we can do it with 800 taels of silver. Zhuangzi regretted it as soon as the manager said it. Zhuangzi actually wanted it himself, but when he thought of the people on North Street, he hesitated. Yuan thought about it, and simply bought both Sanjin Er on South Street and Zhuangzi on North Street, so as not to bother the 2 owners. After buying them all, it only cost 1,400 taels, leaving 1,000 taels left. Well, let's do it. The manager in charge didn't see Yuan for a long time and didn't say anything, so he was about to get up and drive people away. After talking for a long time, he finished talking. Sure enough, this little girl was teasing him, so he just said, "How can a little girl with a bigger come to rent and buy a house?" At this time, Yuan said, "Manager, if I buy both the 3-in-2 courtyard on South Street and the Zhuangzi on North Street, will there be any discount?" The steward, who had his raised halfway, heard Yuan's question and quickly asked, "Little girl, you want to buy it, are you kidding me?" Yuan frowned, "Why are the people here so hard at selling things? Isn't it true that selling and buying things is done with money in hand? What do these repeated questions mean?" Yuan was a little unhappy. "Yes, do you have any other problems with the manager? Are you still worried that I don't have any money to give? Just don't sell it." Yuan stood up and left. It was very convenient for her to buy things in the past. She could transfer money directly with just one phone call. When did buying things become so troublesome? "Hey, little girl, wait a minute, I'll do it for you right now." The manager was in a hurry. This little girl has a very bad temper. If she loses this business, she will regret it for half a year. Yuan stopped and went back to sit down. "As a manager, you are responsible for selling and buying. Please tell me clearly what you need. Also, I am 9 years old. Can I have private property?" At this moment, she remembered that their family was separated and they did not obtain household registration. She was also a minor. She has just arrived and doesn't understand the laws of the Great Yan Kingdom. It seems that she will have to learn more about these things when things stabilize. "Don't worry, little girl. The law of Dian Kingdom stipulates that whose name and in whose hand the deed is, it belongs to him. Of course, it will be recorded in the county government and stamped with a big seal. Others have taken it. It's not of much use. To change the name, the former owner must visit the county office in person or register with the county office in advance before the transfer can be done." The manager was very patient now and told Yuan. "Little girl, do you want to go and see those 2 places?" the steward asked kindly. Is it possible that the little girl didn't know that she could go and look at the house first? Yuan shook her head. She didn't have the time in the United States and didn't have much money. If she finished it today, she could move in at night. She has been out for an hour now and needs to return to Yong'an Hall quickly. The next thing is to pay money, submit your identity information and get the keys. Ya Hang is responsible for going to the county government office to apply for the house deed. Manager, do you have anyone selling them here? Yuan was thinking that their family needed someone to take care of them at the moment. Of course, the slaves they bought were better than anything else. Here, it is legal for a legitimate business like this to sell and buy people. Yes, 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 let the little girl pick it out later. I'll treat it as a discount for you. The manager was thinking that the little girl didn't negotiate a price or anything, so it was just right to give him something. This girl wanted someone, so it was just right. That's good. Yuan stood up and went to the backyard with the steward. The steward slapped his hands and ran out from the rooms in the backyard. More than 30 people, men and women, large and small, lined up in 3 rows. Yuan saw the speed and arrangement, and it was obvious that she was always ready to let her master choose someone. The steward smiled and said, "Miss Yu, everyone is here, you can choose by yourself." Yuan nodded, and she stood on the steps, looking at the 3 rows of people below. There were quite a few of them who looked like little girls dressed in ordinary clothes. They were probably not from good families, so half of them had their heads lowered. Half of the people who raised their heads had eyes that were floating and lifeless, and Yuan ignored them all. There was a man and a woman in the front row, cleanly dressed and with clear eyes. Yuan glanced at them, and a slight smile appeared on their faces. The man had a gentle air, and the woman had a strong energy. The last row looks like a family of 4, in their 30s, with a boy and a girl. The boy is about the same age as Yu Hao, and the girl is about the same as her. His eyes are natural, his complexion is sallow, he is thin, and his clothes are tattered but clean. Yuan immediately named the 6 people. Oh, Miss Yu is really good at picking. These 2 were just sent here 2 days ago. Their former master's family moved to the capital, and the couple did not want to go. Miss Yu, don't worry, this man used to be in charge, and his wife he's also a good hand. The steward pointed at the couple in the front row and said. He then said the other 4, this is a family, and it is also a poor family. The stepmother sold it to her son to study and take the scholar examination. Alas! Yuan couldn't help but look at the people in charge. When would people who sell and buy people be compassionate? This made her think more highly of the person in charge, who was considered a somewhat conscientious person. How much money does their family have? She asked the steward. The manager was a little surprised and said, Miss Yu, just take them. We didn't spend much money on them. Okay then, she didn't show any pretense, she led the 6 people out of the inner hall and asked them to wait. The manager gave the deeds of sale of the 6 of them to Yuan. Miss Yu, I will go to the county government office to handle the transfer of ownership later. You can come and get the house deed and land deed when you apply in the afternoon. Yuan nodded, then took out another 10 taels of silver notes and gave it to the steward. Take it, you need money to handle the transfer, right? Hey, Miss Yu is really a small person who can handle things easily. My surname is Zhang, please call me Manager Zhang. If Miss Yu needs anything from now on, just come to me and I'll take care of it for you. Manager Zhang is still feeling sorry for himself for sending out 6 people so generously, but how can he take back what he said? Wouldn't that be a slap in his face? This girl Yu is really generous with her actions. Now the person is not at a loss, and the seller of the house has made a huge profit. He, Manager Zhang couldn't help but smile happily in his heart. Yuan saw that the matter was settled, and she only had time to pick up the house deed and land deed in the afternoon, so she took 6 people to talk to Manager Zhang and went out. After walking for a while, they happened to be in front of a clothing store not far away. Yuan saw 6 people following her as a little girl without saying a word or impatiently. Yuan was very satisfied. She stopped, took out 20 taels of silver notes from the space and handed them to the couple. The man was Zhu Degi and the woman was Li Guiying. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. Back to the house. Zhu Degi looked at the 20 taels of silver notes that Yuan handed him and said in disbelief, This? Miss, this is this. Here, you are familiar with the town. Buy some clothes for you, as well as food and supplies for our family of 9 and you. You can buy some first and take them back, and then you can buy what you need. They also arranged for them to clean the house, and I went to Yong'an Hall to pick up my parents, brothers, and sisters. If something happens and I don't come back, you can find me there. Yuan then took out a set of keys to the house and the address of the house and gave them to Zhu Degi. She also wanted to see Zhu Degi's ability to do things. Zhu Degi took the key and said respectfully, Don't worry, miss, I will take care of it, but do you need someone to help miss pick up the master, wife, and young master? Yuan smiled. Zhu Degi was on the right track, and immediately showed his identity. She waved her hand, You go quickly, you can solve it yourself at noon, I have to go to Yong'an Hall. After she finished speaking, she walked towards Yong'an Hall, and Mrs. Feng must have woken up as well. Zhu Degi looked at Yuan who was leaving. He couldn't describe how he felt when facing Yuan. A little girl actually had a murderous spirit in her body. He didn't dare to underestimate his little master. So he took a few people and went to do the things assigned by the master. Before Yuan arrived at Yong'an Hall, Xiao and Xiaolai rushed over from a distance. Fourth sister, where have you been? It took me so long to come here, my mother is already awake. Yuan hugged the two little ones and said, then let's go and take a look. The two little ones led her to the Yong'an Hall, one on the left and the other on the right. Xiao Sier is back. When Yu Heiran saw Yuan, he hurriedly stepped forward and asked. Well, let's take a look at my mother. Okay, mother is fine now. What did the doctor say? Yuan asked. Well, the doctor said the situation has improved and asked you to come back and look for him, Yu Heiran said. Yuan walked a few steps quickly and entered the ward. Feng Shi had already woken up on the bed, which was not much different from before. Beside the bed, Yu Dehai was sitting with his head lowered. When he saw Yuan coming back, he shrank his neck and continued to lower his head. It was Xiao Qi in Yu Hao's arms who called her fourth sister when she saw Yuan. Yuan saw that everyone was fine, so she took Yu Heiran and walked straight to the old doctor's room. Yu Heiran knew the old doctor's room. When they went there, the door to the room was open. The two brothers and sisters went in. When the old doctor saw that it was brother and sister Yuan, he pointed to the stool opposite him and said, sit down. Thank you, doctor. The brother and sister sat down. Yuan, doctor, what is the condition of my mother's illness? The old doctor looked at Yuan and his sister and said, what your mother has is not a disease. It's not a disease, what is it? Yuan frowned. It's a poison. Gu. Yuan had heard that Miao Qiang was good at voodoo in her previous life. This thing was so evil that even modern technology couldn't kill it. Yu Heiran looked at the old doctor blankly. What is Gu? Yuan asked, what kind of poison is it? The old doctor saw the expressions of the brother and sister in his eyes. It was obvious that this girl must have heard of Gu. It's just that there are few rumors about Gu among the people. Where has this rural girl heard of it? Love devouring Gu, the old doctor spit out 3 words. He wanted to see how much this girl knew. Eating the love Gu? Feeding on love? In other words, my mother's 7 emotions and 6 desires are fed by the poison? Who hates my mother and makes her live a life worse than death? Yuan was silent for a while. Doctor should know the origin of this poison, right? She knew from the first time she met this old doctor that he was no ordinary person. From the time he diagnosed Feng Shi's pulse, she was sure that the old doctor had seen this symptom before. It was better to say that he knew about this poison and should know the origin of Feng Shi's identity. The old doctor was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the girl really knew this kind of poison. Yes, where did the little girl know about it? Ah, it's really true, that's what she said. The love-eating Gu must feed on love. Haha, doctor, that's all I'm saying. There is a word for love, which must swallow up people's emotions. My mother's symptoms explain everything. And doctor, the most important thing is how to get that thing out. It's not difficult to save your mother. In fact, you can save your mother. The old doctor stroked his beard with his eyes full of juice. Me, are you kidding me, old doctor? Yuan pointed at her nose and said. Yu Heiran is also confused. Xiaocer doesn't even know a few herbs. What kind of joke is this old doctor kidding? Well, that's the main purpose of bringing you to my place today. I remember I asked you if there were any other herbs beside the ginseng. Is it related to that herb? To be precise, it has something to do with the vitality in the medicine. All Gu insects like herbs with strong vitality. Now the little girl should understand what I said, right? I don't have that kind of grass here, so you mother, you bring Go back, it's up to you whether it's good or not. Also, if the little girl cures your mother one day and has extra herbs, I'll buy them at a high price, okay little girl? Haha, this old fox. Of course you can. How much will the doctor calculate for the consultation fee and medicine? I just happened to be back in time for lunch. The old doctor waved his hand. You go back, the medical fees are not worth it. Yuan and Yuhairan stood up and said thank you, then returned to the ward and led the family out of Yong'an Hall. Xiao Sier, shall we go back to the inn? Yuhairan asked Yuan. Yuan held Xiao and Xiaoliu's hands. No, I just went out and bought a house, we'll just go back. What, bought a house? The first person to exclaim was Yu Hao. This usually silent child was shocked. Xiao Sier, where did you get the money to buy the house? Yu Dahai said with a look of disbelief. He thought it was probably stolen money. The brothers and sisters all looked at Yuan. Of course, except for the look of hatred on Yu Dahai's face, they all looked at her with expressions of admiration, waiting for her answer. Yuan looked at Yu Dahai with a bad face. Of course I earned it myself, the old doctor knows. Wow, fourth sister, you are so capable. Xiao Lu looked at her fourth sister with starry eyes. When she grows up, she will learn from her fourth sister and earn a lot of money. Let's go, stop standing, go back to eat. Oh, Yuhairan was the most excited. He knew that Xiao Sier sold ginseng to the old doctor, so he took the lead to help Feng and follow Yuan. Yong'an Hall is very close to the house, and they arrived in front of the house written on the address without even a stick of incense. It looks quite new from the outside, with the name Sufu on the signboard. There are 5 stone steps, a pair of stone lions on both sides of the door, 2 red-painted wooden doors with 2 round door knockers. The door was closed at this time, so Yuan stepped forward and knocked the door knocker. After a while, the door opened, and it was Zudagi who opened the door. Ah, the lady is back, come in quickly. When Zudagi saw that it was Yuan's family, he immediately opened the door and waited on the right side of the door. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. Shocked. Yu Dahai and the others had never seen such a scene before. Their feet were shaking when they walked, and they looked around from time to time. Zudagi closed the door and followed Yuan. Miss, you haven't eaten yet? I will let the old lady cook now. The room has been cleaned, and the things we bought will be delivered by the store in the afternoon. What we brought back is for use in the kitchen. Yuan, well, you go ahead and arrange the cooking. Let Qin Dazu and his family come to the room to wait. I'll have something to arrange later. Okay, miss, Zudagi greeted Yu Dahai and went to make arrangements. Yuan saw that this house was 70% new, and the 600 taels of silver were worth thousands of dollars. There is a concierge on the left after entering from the gate, then a corridor, extending to the backyard, and then the first courtyard, where they enter the courtyard. Yuan looked at it and saw that there was a rain corridor at the entrance, a garden in the middle, a row of main rooms in the middle, 2 small side rooms on both sides, and 2 side rooms. The brothers and sisters looked at this spacious, bright, and beautiful big tile-roofed house. This will be their place to live in the future. Xiao and Xiaoliu even started running in the garden, cheering, oh, we have a big house to live in. They ran over and took Yuan's hand. Fourth sister, which room are we staying in? I want to check it out. This courtyard is for my parents to live in. My brother will live in the second courtyard later, and the 2 of us will live in the last courtyard. The fourth sister will take you to see it later. Xiao Sier, do we have one too? Brother Yuhairan and the other 3 were so excited that they all spoke on TikTok. Of course there is. Let's let my parents go into the house first and we'll take a look later, Yuan said, stepping forward to help Feng into the main room. In the middle of the main house is a spacious main room, which is now empty. The floor is completely paved with wooden boards. The 2 bedrooms on the left and right are connected to the 2 small side rooms. Yuan entered the bedroom and saw a bed and a wooden chair. She took the chair out and placed it in the main room for Mrs. Feng to sit down. At this time, Zhu Degi brought Qin Dazu and his family to the main room and stood opposite Yuan and the others. Slaves Zhu Degi, Qin Dazu, Qin Mingxi, Qin Zishuan, and Qin Xianger have met the master, madam, young master, and miss. Then the five of them bowed respectfully. Yu Dahai spent half his life as a bastard, and then turned around and became a master. At this moment, he was still blinking and had not recovered yet. It was Yu Hao who spoke, "Get up." "Yes, thank you young master." The five people stood in front of them respectfully, waiting for the master to lecture. Yuan shook her head, pointed at Yu Dahai and introduced, "This is the master. This is Madam, Feng family. This is the eldest young master Yu Heiran. This is the second young master Yu Hao. This is the third young master Yu Haoshan. I am Lao Si Yuan. This is the fifth young master Yu Haoang. This is the sixth Miss Yu Yao. This is the seventh young master Yu Haoun. You have to remember that our family only has these 9 masters. You have also seen that our family is like country folk with no rules, but I cannot tolerate betrayal in my eyes, especially something like this." Yuan grasped the handle of the wooden chair and squeezed it hard. The place where she held it suddenly turned into sawdust and fell to the ground. The whole group of people were stunned and their spines ran cold. Think about it, if you pinch your head or arms, you won't be able to finish the game. Yuan glanced at everyone, the most important of whom was Yu Dahai. Sure enough, Yu Dahai was so frightened that his lips turned white and his legs were shaking when he stood. After being shocked, the Yu Heiran brothers' eyes were filled with admiration and no fear. Zhu Degi and the other 5 were shocked on the spot and did not dare to express their anger. Zhu Degi thought in his heart, "This fourth lady is indeed not an ordinary person, and his feeling cannot be wrong." Yuan nodded. She wanted this effect, otherwise there would always be someone trying to cause trouble for her. She doesn't have that much time to deal with unexpected things. Only by getting rid of some people's evil intentions early can she be able to do her thing with peace of mind. I am currently in charge of the family. From today on, Zhu Degi will take care of all the big and small things at home. If you are unsure, you must come to me. In addition, Qin Dazu and his family, you will go to the North Street Zhuangzi after dinner. The crops there will be taken care of by your family. Of course, there are not enough manpower to tell Zhu Degi. It's up to you whether it's better to hire people or buy people. That's all for now. After lunch, Zhu Degi took me to the town to buy everything I need for my family at once. Yes, Miss Fourth, sir, madam, young master, Miss Six, let's go and get busy. The 5 people bowed and left. Fourth sister, you are so embarrassed, can you teach Xiao Wu? Xiao Wu wants to learn. Xiao Wu raised his head and looked at Yuan. Yuan glanced at the 3 brothers and saw that they were all looking at her expectantly. She pursed her lips and said, "Of course you can. From now on, you can go to school and learn martial arts at the same time. You are not required to be able to rule the country with literature or be able to stabilize the country with martial arts. But you can protect yourself, beat the bully, take care of the mistress, protect your family, protect our home. But remember, we have to start from tomorrow, let's clean up the house first." Okay, the brothers and sisters were so happy that they were at a loss for words. They have been bullied enough. One day, they can also study and learn martial arts. They must study hard. In the future, they will be proud and make those who bully them angry. Yuan saw that everyone was thirsty, so she gave everyone a piece of fruit. Then there was a clicking sound throughout the room. Yu Dahai took the fruit and ate it slowly. When the cool juice of the fruit entered his throat, the others completely recovered from the shock. He usually saw Yuan shouting and killing, so he thought she was just shouting for fun. What he did when he saw her today completely overturned his common sense. This little 4th child can usually be seen fighting against her grandparents. Even the last time she beat her sister-in-law, she left some room. If she used all her strength, who else in the family would be sane? Forget it, why not have a life like this in the future? Moreover, the eldest child and the others can go to school and learn the martial arts that the fourth child mentioned. In the future, the children will become stronger and no longer be bullied, beaten, and scolded. He still likes it in his heart. Yes, it's just parents, hey. Yuan paid attention to Yudahai's reaction and saw that his eyes were still somewhat tangled. She is not worried about this. She is worried that he will not change his servility. Let the three brothers teach him how to read in the future. In the future, his horizons will be broadened. If it is still the same as before, then she can do whatever she wants. It's time to eat, master, madam, young master, miss. Zudagi knocked on the door and said. The group walked through the rain corridor and came to a large room next to the kitchen in the backyard. There were two large round tables. One table had food on it, and the other only had a large pot of vegetables and 6 bowls of rice. Zudagi stepped forward and helped Yudahai sit up, then stood behind him and Feng. Yuan didn't say anything. She was used to the rules and etiquette in these big families, and she adapted very well. When the other people saw Yuan sit down, they all sat down too. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 16. Chapter 16 by. The family had the most sumptuous meal in their lives. Out of the dining hall, Xiao and Xiaoliu were still thinking about the meal they had just eaten, the white rice, the fat but not greasy meat, and the various delicious vegetables. Fourth sister, will we have these meals every day from now on? It's delicious. Xiaolu held Yuan's hand and asked while kicking the bench beside the raincoat with her little feet. Of course there is. Hey, poor kid, there are only a few dishes at lunch today, including 2 meat dishes, and that makes them so satisfied. Second brother, take your mother back to the house to lie down for a while. There is a bed in the bedroom, but there is no quilt. My eldest brother and I will buy it later. Yuan said to Yu Hao that she saw that Feng was a little tired and Xiao Qi was also drowsy. Okay, you go, I'll watch at home. They were in a good mood today. They had a big house to live in, food and meat to eat, and servants at home. They still feel like they are in a dream. It is really a dream of and a dream of heaven. I really hope that this beautiful dream will not be broken. Xiao Sier, you go, your mother has me. It was rare that Yudahai said a human word. Yuan glanced at him, and Yudahai clasped his hands together and held Feng's other arm. There are still us, fourth sister, Xiao and Xiaoliu said hurriedly, fearing that they would be exposed. Okay, Xiao and Xiaoliu have grown up and become sensible. Yuan caught the 2 little ones, one of them was fragrant, and the other was fragrant before following Yu Heiran to the gate. Young master, fourth miss, Zudagi was already waiting at the door. Well, Uncle Zhu, let's go, he said and walked out the door. Hey, here it comes. Zudagi was very happy. The fourth lady called him Uncle Zhu. Fourth miss, how can you call the old slave Uncle Zhu? You can't do it, you can't do it. Zudagi was happy in his heart, but he didn't have the courage to accept it calmly. It's okay, we call, you just answer when he is in charge of things in the house. It is really inappropriate to call him Zudagi directly. Calling him Uncle Zhu is respected by everyone outside and inside. Miss Fourth, if you want to buy furniture or something, why not go to East Street? There are several newly opened shops there, Zudagi said. Oh, let's go take a look, it's closer here. As the 3 of them arrived at East Street, there were indeed several newly opened shops. Yuan went in and took a look. The quality was much better and the variety was complete. Brother, let's buy everything here. Oh, by the way, Uncle Zhu can buy other utensils. Yuan took out another 50-tael silver note and gave it to Zudagi. Zudagi took the banknote and went to West Street. Xiao Sier, we don't need to buy something so expensive. Yu Heiran saw that the things in the store were so expensive that he really wanted to drag Xiao Sier and leave. A table costs 20 taels, which Yu Heiran has never seen in his life. Brother, these things can be used for many years. Of course you have to buy them. Well, Yuan doesn't like fussy things. Money earned is spent, so why save it? She could not spend all the money she earned in her previous life. As a result, she died and no one knew about her money. In the end, it was not confiscated. The person died and the money was not spent. Since then, Yuan has now started the buying mode. Bed, small round table, desk, bookcase, wardrobe, stool, dressing table. Quilt, mattress for bed, sheets, mosquito net, pillow. Then there were the family's clothes, which she bought into cloth. The cloth was naturally muslin and brocade. Finally, Yuan also picked out 20 sets of teacups and tea sets. Yu Heiran watched all the way, his jaw dropped in shock. Brother, do you have anything else you need to buy? Yuan asked Yu Heiran, who was still in a daze. No, no more, Xiaocer has already bought a lot of these. Yu Heiran couldn't believe that Xiaocer bought so many things with only 200 taels of silver. Yuan shook her head, took Yu Heiran to West Street, and found a bookstore. Of course, I spent dozens of taels on pens, ink, paper, inkstones, and enlightenment books. Yu Heiran had to carry all the things he bought this time. Yu Heiran was feeling dizzy, carrying a baggage with the scent of ink on his back, and followed Yuan with his front feet leaning back. Okay, the four brothers can finally study. Yu Heiran was so excited that tears rolled out of his eyes. Yuan saw it and sighed. She knocked on Yu Heiran's mind, if you are excited at this point, you will have no future. If you win the first prize in the exam, you will gradually become excited. Yu Heiran was knocked out of his wits by Yuan, and he wiped away his tears. Okay, Xiaocer, my eldest brother will give you the top score in the examination. That's pretty much it. Remember, a man can't shed tears easily. He has gold at his knees. If you want to do it, you have to be a man who stands upright. Don't act like a girl all day long. What's the point of being weak and crying? I do know, these words often hanging in the mouth of the man, saying from Yuan's mouth, but inspiring the four of the other brothers, creating four truly echoed men and becoming the beams of the country. Well, brothers, we must be upright people in the eyes of Xiaoci and protect our home, Yu Heiran said seriously. Hey, little four, let's wait and see. Well, my brother will definitely live up to Xiaocer's expectations. Unknowingly, I had wandered to the door of Yaxing. Yuan said, brother, I want to go in and get the house deed and land deed. Okay, big brother will accompany you. The two brothers and sisters entered the dental shop. The steward Zhang was immersed in sorting things and saw Yuan and his sister. Oh, Miss Yu is here, sit down quickly. He called Yuan and his sister to sit down, and then asked the boy to serve tea. Okay, the brother and sister sat down. Manager Zhang took out 2 deeds stamped with red stamps and handed them to Yuan. She took them, looked at them, confirmed they were correct, and put them into the wooden house in the space. Thank you so much, Manager Zhang. In addition, we still need to select a few women. As soon as Manager Zhang heard that he still wanted someone, he immediately got up and took Yuan and his sister into the back hall. He still clapped his hands, and the people still came out of the house and lined up. When they saw that it was the little girl and the half-grown man who had just arrived in the morning, half of them still had their heads lowered. Yuan still chooses those with clean eyes. She calculated in her mind that Feng, Xiao, Xiaoliu, and Xiaoqi each needed a wife, a concierge, and a kitchen wife, a total of 6 people. Yuan said, those who can do needlework will stand out. 2 women came out, one of whom was carrying a child. Those who know how to work in the kitchen come forward. 3 women came out immediately, one of whom was accompanied by a man. Those who can take care of children over 3 years old can come forward. 7 women came forward. Of these 7 women, only one did not have anyone with her, but the others did. Yuan saw that it was almost done, so she chose the one who was doing needlework and taking care of the child. The one who takes care of men in kitchen chores. Those who knew how to take care of children chose the one who was a woman alone, and the 2 who brought a family. The ones with a family were half-grown boys who could serve as servants for the brothers. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 17. Chapter 17 Stealing Things. Yuan saw that there were 11 people, which was more than she expected. She needed to think about it. They had too many family members, and they didn't have many people to spread out, so they stayed. Guanxi please calculate how much money these 11 people have. Steward Zhang saw that Yuan had chosen all middle-aged people and not any young people. This solved a big problem for him. Generally, when people come to buy, they buy young men and girls. Few people want middle-aged people, and even the elderly cannot give them away. He chuckled, "Miss Yu, how about these people give you 6 taels of silver each? Okay, you have to keep the crops for sale and the strong laborers for planting crops for me in the future." Yuan planned to buy it again after Zhuangzi. She didn't know how to do business, so she just bought the land to farm and become a landowner. Okay, I'll send someone to inform you if you have it. Does Zhuangzi want someone from this town? Give it priority if it's from other towns or counties. County offices are also acceptable. Okay, Manager Zhang kept Yuan's words in mind. A rich man, it's true that a person cannot be judged by his appearance, nor can a sea be measured, but a little girl is still a hidden master. Manager Zhang sent the brother and sister out to the dental clinic with a smile on their face, and then happily counted his banknotes. Yu Heiran has been learning from Yuan how to look at people and how to choose people throughout the whole process. What he saw this day was simply beyond his imagination. He didn't understand how Xiao Sier understood so many things that had never appeared in his life. After leaving Yaxing, Yuan quickly returned to the house with 9 people. The door was not closed, and the delivery person had just finished unloading the goods. It happened that Zhu Degi sent people out, and saw brother and sister Yuan returning with 9 people. He was worried that no one would use it, so Yuan came back with people. "That's right, Uncle Zhu, I'll leave it to you to arrange these 9 people." Yuan handed the person over to Zhu Degi. "Well, okay, Miss Fourth, you brought me back just in time." Zhu Degi took the person happily. "Brother, put your baggage away and settle the bill at the inn. We'll stay at home tonight." Yuan remembered that the bill at the inn had not been settled yet. "Okay, brother, let's go right away." Yu Heiran carried his baggage and walked to their second courtyard. Yuan walked along the rain corridor to the third courtyard. By now, the third courtyard was almost tidied up. She entered the main room. The furniture in the main room had been arranged, with a square table in the middle and single armchairs on both sides. 3 feet away from the square table, there are 2 tea tables on the left and right sides, similar to coffee tables, and behind the tea tables are 2 chairs. She entered the bedroom on the right, and there were 2 people making the bed. When they saw Yuan coming in, they didn't dare to express their anger. They greeted her and continued their actions. Yuan saw that it was still early, and she had forgotten one important thing, and that was their family's household registration. If it's impossible to ask Lao Yutu, and it's impossible for him to give it to you, then go get it yourself. This matter cannot be entrusted, otherwise things will change if it is too late. Sooner or later, people in the old house will know that she bought a house and a village here. Yuan took advantage of the fact that it was still dark for an hour, so she quickly went out and ran to Yujia village. Having arrived at Yujia village in half an hour, smoke filled the roofs of every household in the village. She quietly touched the back door of the old house. This back door was the most familiar to her. She opened the door gently and saw that there was no one in the yard. It was estimated that people in several rooms were waiting for dinner in their respective rooms at this time. Yuan flashed into the family's original room. She thought, how could Yu Yang have someone clean the kennel so quickly? It must have been empty. Sure enough, the room was the same as before, and she stepped into the space. The air in the space relieved her tired body today, so she simply sat on the ground and practiced the star technique. After some practice, Yuan picked a few fruits. After eating, she read a book in the wooden house. About an hour passed outside, and Yuan estimated that Lao Yutu and his family were having dinner. She stepped out of the space. It was already dark outside. She looked at Lao Yu's room and ran in lightly. At dinner time, Lao Yutu's door was unlocked, so Yuan entered the room and started rummaging around. Fortunately, after practicing the star art to reach the first level, her eyesight could see the night as if it were day. She opened the secret compartment on the bedside table and looked at it. Her family's household registration was in it. She flipped through it and found out that the household registration paper contained a picture of Lao Yutu and Yu Yang. All the people in the first house were on the same page, as were those in the second house. She flipped to the third bedroom, and sure enough, the third bedroom's information was all on one piece of paper. This was really convenient for her. She gently took the one and threw it into the space. Since they are here, they must take something with them. The most important thing is the ginseng plant. They cannot be taken advantage of. Yuan started to rummage again, but there was no ginseng or Yu Yang's money box. They searched everywhere in the room. Yuan saw that time was running out and she would not be able to escape until she was seen. Suddenly, a square stone at the foot of the bed seemed very clean. Yuan stepped forward, dug it out with her hand, and opened the stone. Sure enough, there was a box about 1 foot long, half a foot wide, and half a foot high. Yuan saw that the box was locked. She waved her hand and the box entered the space. She gently flattened the stone, erased the traces she left, and quietly slipped out of the back door. After leaving Yujiakan, Yuan ran all the way and returned to the town smoothly. She estimated that everyone in her family was looking for her. When she reached the door, she took out a pheasant that Yuan had hunted from the space and carried it before knocking on the door. As soon as the door opened, a bunch of people looked at her anxiously. Xiao Sier, where have you been? Yu Heiran pulled her into the door and walked around her in a circle, seeing that she was holding a pheasant in her hand. Xiao Sier, you're not going up the mountain to catch this pheasant, are you? What else? Okay, let's all go back. Have you eaten? Yuan asked, and she threw the pheasant to a servant. I've been waiting for you and haven't eaten yet. Where are Xiao, Xiaoliu and Xiaoqi? Yuan didn't see those three guys. Yu Heiran, they fell asleep before they could wait for you. They just fell asleep. Oh, let's go, eldest brother, second brother, and third brother, you all go and eat. If you have any food, just bring it to my room, and there's also bath water. Yuan talked to her brothers and then returned to the room. When the three brothers saw that Yuan had returned safely, they also went to eat and asked Zudagi to arrange for someone to deliver food and water to her. Yuan returned to her room, where an oil lamp was lit. I saw that the decoration in the room was according to her wishes. It was indeed good. It felt like home. Miss Forth, my servant has brought food and water, a woman's voice sounded outside. Yuan opened the door and asked her mother-in-law to her into the house. Are you Mr. Wu? Yuan remembered this person. Yes, Miss Forth, my servant Wu Mrs. Wu put the tray, carried the water into the ear room, and then stood upright next to Yuan. Well, you can stay with me from now on. Yuan saw that Wu was clean and tidy, with nimble hands and feet, and was a good worker. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Lan Department. Chapter 18. Chapter 18, Understanding. I thank you, Miss Forth. Mrs. Wu waited nearby for Yuan to finish eating and put away her things. After eating and taking a shower, Yuan went to bed and lay on the comfortable bed, feeling more at ease than ever before. As soon as midnight passed, everyone in the house fell asleep, and Yuan stepped into the space. The old doctor said during the day that Feng's illness depends on her elixir, but how can we use the elixir to get out the love-eating goo? You can't just take a piece of grass to tease it out like you did when you were a kid. Yuan took out the books in the bookcase one by one and looked through them. There was no book about goo insects. He turned around and found a book suitable for Yu Heiran and the others. She couldn't find it, so she practiced some practice in the space and then read a book until she felt dozed off before falling asleep. The next day, Yuan got up early and ran in the yard. After running, Wu brought her face wash, mouthwash, and breakfast. At this time, Xiaolu also got up, and behind her was another woman named Zhang. When she saw Yuan, she bowed to her. The little girl saw Yuan and threw herself into her arms. "Did you sleep alone last night?" Yuan asked her softly. Today, Xiaolai wore a pink dress and 2 buns on her head. She ignored her thin body and sallow face. A very cute girl. Well, fourth sister, Xiaolu slept very well, the beautiful bed and the fragrant quilt, Xiaolu likes it. Fourth sister, where did you go yesterday? You haven't come back so late, Xiaolu pouted. As long as Xiaolai likes it, the fourth sister went to catch pheasants last night, and we can eat them at noon today. Come on, let's go have breakfast. After we finish eating, we'll go see my mother. Yuan picked up Xiaolu and returned to the main room. Yuan looked at the breakfast. There were 2 bowls of rice porridge, 6 meat buns, and a plate of pickles. In this rural area, this kind of breakfast is already excellent. After the sisters finished eating, Yuan led Xiaolu to Feng's courtyard. In the yard, Mrs. Feng was supported by Yu Dehai and looked at the flowers and plants in the small garden. Yuan took Xiaolai and said, "Good morning, Mom." Yu Dehai still called him after seeing Yuan. He felt inexplicably happy and responded eagerly, "Hey, you 2 sisters have eaten." Yuan heard Yu Dehai's voice today, and she raised her lips and smiled, "We've eaten. How are you doing today?" "Your mother is fine today, Xiao Sier, when will you show your mother?" Yu Dehai asked Yuan. "I have to go to the mountains to find medicine." "Let's go up the mountain tomorrow. Later I have to see if there is a teacher who can enlighten my brothers and them so that they can all go to school next year. The eldest brother, the second brother, and the third brother all miss the best enlightenment. You have to make up for your age." Yuan paid attention to Yu Dehai's expression as she spoke. Sure enough, when he talked about reading, a flash of pain and a flash of hope flashed on his face. "Hey," Yuan let out a long sigh. "This man has been cowardly all his life. I don't know if the experience of the past 2 days has given him any insights. Being filial to parents is a child's obligation and a natural thing, but blindly being filial will harm others and yourself. Zia Cer, Dad, hey, Dad is not a good dad." Yu Dehai's heart was full of sourness at this time. The changes in the past 2 days shocked his rock-like heart. He has often asked himself in the past 2 days if he was really wrong before. Yuan helped Feng back to the house, and took out a few fruits, peeled them all and put them on the plate for everyone to eat. Yuan sat next to Fengxi and gave Fengxi a piece to eat. She looked at Yu Dehai and said, "But you are a good son." Yu Dehai was startled. "Mom, Dad, Xiao Sier, Xiaolu are here too." At this time, Yu Heiran and his 3 brothers came in with Xiao Qi in their arms, and saw Yu Dehai with his head lowered. "Xiao Sier, what's wrong with Dad?" Yu Heiran asked. Yuan saw that her whole family was here, so she simply let Yu Dehai sort out the matter, so as not to keep it in his mind. One day he would do something unexpected. "Dad, our whole family happens to be here." Let me explain it to you clearly. You can think about it yourself and see what I say and do. Brother, please sit down, Yuan said. Yu Heiran, okay, Xiao Sier, we will listen to whatever you say, just say it. Yuan, just now, my father said that he is not a good father, and I said that he is a good son. There is nothing wrong with that, right? Dad, think about it, he is also a son. Why do you still don't want to see our family even though you have done so much work? Yuan looked at Yu Dahai, who squirmed and glanced at the children in front of him. Because of your temper is cowardly. You can't fight back when hit, scolded, or argue. You have never thought that you are like this. On the contrary, Grandma looks down on you even more, thinking that you are a coward and useless. People, you can't bring them value or reputation. You can only do some work. On the other hand, they are right and wrong. You don't dare to say anything when something happens. Anyway, you don't care about anything. It's your fault, just admit it. Yuan stared at Yu Dahai's darkened face. Do you think I'm right? Yuan continued, if you are soft-tempered, you should be softer. But your biggest mistake is that you only care about having children and don't care how to raise them well. You have not thought about your children's future. Even the uncle everyone knows it's a good deal for his son, but what about you? You still say that your son works and your brother's son study. Yuan looked at brother Yu Heiran, their eyes were filled with tears. Actually, I really want to dig out your brain and have a look. Is your brain filled with water or is it made of straw? You can even think about it with your ass. How much does your son have to do with you if he has a promising future? Is he giving you money? Flowers? Or find a wife for your son and start a family? Or do you want someone to support you until your death? Actually, you can think of it this way: grandma and grandma know how to protect their sons and grandsons like chickens, but what about you? Honoring your parents is a natural thing, but you must also have a certain degree. Your parents live a prosperous life, but you and your children are like beggars. What do you think? Xiao Sier, Dad knows that Dad is wrong, Dad is sorry for your mother and you, woo woo woo. At this moment, Yu Dahai was sobbing loudly, as if he was crying out all the grievances he had suffered for so many years and his own inaction. Yuan winked at brother Yu Heiran, and the three brothers immediately stood up, helped Yu Dahai, who was crying, and carried him to the bedroom. None of the three brothers tried to persuade him, and they all came out immediately after being helped in. Xiao Sier, is there nothing wrong with this? Yu Heiran asked. What's the problem? He should have reflected on it long ago, Yuan replied. Although what she said today was a bit harsh and unpleasant, she had to say it. Yu Dahai's temperament is too weak. Today's life is a little easier. Tomorrow, old Yutu and Yu Yang will come to make a noise, and he will immediately compromise. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 19. Chapter 19, Division of Labor and Training. When the time comes, Yu Dahai can't stand the threat of filial piety from Lao Yu and his wife. If Yu Dahai is slapped with the unfilial hat, can Yu Dahai withstand it? How dare he fart? Even if she had no choice but to let her hold her house and village in front of Lao Yu. So we must give him a strong dose of medicine to stimulate him. Sometimes people who have been oppressed to the extreme will rebound and be more cruel than anyone else. Yuan wanted to see how effective the strong medicine given to Yu Dahai would be. The most important thing is that she doesn't want to waste time on these excellent relatives. Hearing what Yuan said, the three brothers remained silent and all sat down. Eat some fruit, don't worry, he will be fine. After crying, Yuan took out the fruit again and started cutting it. They were no longer surprised that she took out the fruit with her bare hands. They knew that Xiao Seer had an awesome master and they would not blink an eye even if he changed into a living person. Yuan also ate. At this moment, she saw that Feng was still interacting with Xiaoliu and Xiaoqi, and even wiped Xiaoliu and Xiaoqi's mouth with her sleeve. The brothers looked at each other, their eyes full of worry instantly turned into surprise. Their mother was getting better and better. They all looked at Yuan happily, even ignoring Yu Dahai's crying. Who doesn't want his parents to be healthy and loving? Only their family has a weak father and a stupid mother, and their life is worse than that of a beggar. Yuan was also very happy. Although she didn't know how to get the love-devouring goo, this phenomenon showed that it was no longer devouring Feng's emotions. She was wondering if one day, Mrs. Feng would recover and look at the litter of children she had with the troubled Yu Dahai, would she go crazy? After all, her status should be very noble. Brother, go and ask Zudagi to call everyone in the yard. She had to distribute the people she bought back on the first day, so that she would no longer care about these things in the future, and let her brothers watch and learn from them. Yu Hairan got up and went out, and Yuan said to Yu Hao and Yu Haoshan, there will be some boys who will be bought back to serve as your servants. The two brothers waved their hands repeatedly. Xiao Sier, I don't need the servant, we can do it ourselves. What nonsense are you talking about? You can't spend your time and attention on small things. It's only right that you have to work hard to become stronger. Yuan glared at them, and the two immediately shut up. After a while, Zudagi and a group of people were standing in the yard. Yuan called his brothers to the steps of the gate, and there were 2 rows of people standing below. Yuan looked at it and said, hey, there are so many people there. There are 13 people, big and small. If Qin Dazu and his family don't go to Zhuangzi, there will be 17 servants in the family alone. Slaves, and maids have seen the young master, miss, 13 people shouted in unison. Yuan said ahem twice, today, I asked you to come over so that I can tell you about your work at home in the future. There are 9 people in our family, and together with 13 of you, there are 22 people. Oh, there are 4 other people who went to Zhuangzi on North Street. We are now considered a big family. Since you have come to our house, you must understand that you are the only 9 masters and are not allowed to cheat. Our family is also from the village, so we don't have many strict rules, as long as everyone does their part with all their heart, that's all. From today on, Zudagi will be the steward of our family. He will be responsible for managing and arranging all the major and minor matters in the family. If you can't handle it, you can contact the eldest young master and me. Now I will rearrange you. Uncle Zhu and you all listen carefully. Aunt Li Gihua, and Aunt Yao will be responsible for the kitchen from today, Aunt Chen will be responsible for all the affairs of the wife, Uncle Du Das Han will be responsible for all the affairs of the master, Zhang Chunyu Uncle Zhang is in charge of the concierge, Uncle Li Erniu is in charge of the second entry into the courtyard, Du Xiaoshan, son of Aunt Peng and Du Das Han, 12 years old, follows the eldest young master, Li Wangfu, son of Aunt Zhang and Li Erniu, 11 years old. Followed the second and third young masters, Taidan Wangdong, Aunt Chen's son, 10 years old, followed the fifth young master, Aunt Wu followed me, Aunt Zhang was responsible for all the affairs of the sixth young master, and Aunt Peng was responsible for all the affairs of the seventh young master. Yuan looked at everyone again, do you remember? Everyone, Miss Fourth, we remember. Yuan picked up a stone larger than a fist from the garden and raised it high, very good. I hope you can take your master seriously. If I find you cheating on your master, especially the stone. Yuan pressed hard, and the stone was crushed into powder and fell on the steps. When everyone saw it, a chill ran down their backs. Even Yu Dahai, who had quietly gotten up, felt a suffocating feeling on his neck. He shrunk his neck, ducked and entered the bedroom again. Oh, mother, Miss Fourth, little fourth child, is so scary, everyone couldn't help but sigh in horror. Cough cough cough, Yuan coughed a few times, pulling back the stunned people. Of course you will be rewarded for your good work. Each of you will be given 500 coppers per month except for your children and Uncle Zhu. You don't have children now. If you are willing to learn Chinese, you can follow your young master to exercise and exercise every day. Literary. Uncle Zhu's monthly payment is tentatively 2 taels. Everyone was very satisfied after hearing about Yuan's arrangement and the monthly payment. Especially the 3 children, who could also exercise and learn literacy with the young master, were very excited. They all secretly told themselves that they would do their best to protect their master in the future. Yuan has her own reasons for this arrangement. There is no reason for the master to be strong and the servant next to him to be like a weakling. When something happens, the master has to protect his servant. It would be better to let them learn together with their master, grow together, and build a deep friendship. I believe that no servant would refuse such a pie-in-the-sky offer and would not be grateful to his master. Zhu Degi took the lead and knelt down. Thank you, master, madam, master, miss. The slaves, servants, will do their best to do their duty and will never betray the Lord. After saying that, he kowtowed 3 times. Dong dong dong. Get up, everyone, please take your place now. Yuan's family accepted their kneeling and kowtowing calmly. The first time you make a rule, you deserve it. Yes, the slaves, servants, retire. After everyone left, the 3 children stood aside, and Du Das-Han was sweeping the yard with a broom. Yuan turned around and entered the room and saw Mrs. Chen wiping the dirt on Feng's face and body. Peng Shizhong carried Xiao Qi and walked out of the house. Judging from Xiao Qi's gesture, it should be that Xiao Qi wanted to go out. Aunt Chen, my mother's condition is not very good. You should cut more fruit for her to eat every day and drink more water. Spend more time with her and talk to her. If there is anything wrong, you must tell me as soon as possible. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 20. Chapter 20. Getting ready to go up the mountain. Yes, Miss Fourth, I have remembered this. After saying this, she gave Yuan a blessing. The overall temperament is gentle and unpretentious. It was because of her gentle nature that Yuan let her follow Fengxi. Her rough voice even scared Fengxi. Since Feng's illness is a disease, she naturally cannot hate Feng as before. Well, I'll leave this to you. The 5 brothers and sisters then spoke to Mrs. Feng, and they returned to the second courtyard. Entering the second courtyard, Li Das-Han was already cleaning the yard. Seeing that it was Yuan and others who were coming back, he hurriedly came over to greet them. The 5 brothers and sister nodded and went into the house to sit down. 3 boys immediately went to pour water for them. After the 5 brothers and sisters drank some water, Yuan took out a book of Vajraju from his sleeve, which was actually from space. Eldest brother, second brother, third brother, and Xiao Wu, from today onwards you can practice this exercise according to the instructions above. In order to study, you must first have a strong body. Yuan found this from the space last night. This technique and her Xin Chenju are both refining qi internally and refining skin externally. It is a good technique. If you refine your qi to the extreme, it is completely possible to fly over eaves and walk over walls. Refining skin to the extreme can make you invulnerable. It's just that her star art only has the first level of magic in her mind, and it should automatically display the second level of magic when she breaks through to the second level. Yuan didn't hesitate, it would naturally appear when it should appear. Yu Heiran picked up King Kong Ju. Yu Hao and the others looked up and looked at it with bitter looks on their faces. They didn't know how to read. Upon seeing this, Yuan said, "Don't worry, you can run in the yard this morning. After you finish running, I will teach you how to read the characters on it." The brothers looked happy. "Okay, Let's start running right away. After saying that, the four brothers went to the yard, and the three boys followed. Yu Heiran took the lead and ran away. Yuan nodded with satisfaction and called Li Das-han over. Uncle Li, go to the kitchen and tell Aunt Li and the others to boil water and bring it up for the seven of them to take a bath later. Li Das-han saw that his son was also running. Although he didn't know why he was running, there was nothing wrong with following the young masters. He immediately put down what he was doing and went to the kitchen. Yuan stood on the steps and watched them run. At first, the seven of them ran well, but gradually they became exhausted and Xiao Wu fell behind. You keep running if you can run if you can't run, hold on to the rain porch and stop, never squat or sit down, Yuan said loudly next to her. At this time, Li Das-han, Aunt Li, and Aunt Yao entered the yard carrying hot water. Yuan asked them to carry water into the ear room for later use, so they left. The first one to stop was Xiao Wu, and then the three Yu Heiran brothers stopped. On the contrary, the three boys were still running, which showed how poor the health of the four brothers was. Li Wangfu, you three, don't stop, hold on as long as you can, Yuan said to the three boys as they passed by. After lighting a stick of incense, the three of them also stopped. After you have rested enough for 2 sticks of incense, go take a bath. I will wait for you in the main room. After Yuan finished speaking, she returned to the main room to drink water and eat fruits. The summer here is really hot, and my mouth will become dry after a while. Xiao Wu rested for 2 sticks of incense and ran while shouting, "Fourth sister, water, hurry up, I'm dying of thirst." As soon as he entered the room, he drank a large glass of water poured by Yuan. After Xiao finished drinking, he put down his cup and said, "Fourth sister, I went to take a shower. I smell so bad." He even smelled himself with a look of disgust. "Yes, you stinky boy, go quickly." Yuan poked Xiao's forehead, and he knew it was stinky. A few days ago, he was so stinky that he didn't even hear them say it. After that, the three Yu Heiran brothers also came in to drink water, and also went in to take a shower and change clothes. Then the three boys also went to their own rooms to take a shower and change clothes before coming out. Yuan saw that all 7 people were here, so she began to teach them the skills. Of course, when you start teaching, write their names first, and then teach them after they are all recognized. The morning passed like this, and they had lunch. In the afternoon, Yuan did not rush up the mountain, but taught them the order of strokes. There is no pinyin here, so she naturally won't teach them. She only teaches them writing after they are familiar with the order of strokes. 3 days passed, and Yuan was basically familiar with the stroke order, so Yuan was ready to teach them how to write. 3 days passed, and Yuan took the lead in the daily running of the 7 people, and their condition was getting better day by day. 3 days passed, and everything was normal at home. On the 4th day, after lunch, Yuan taught them how to write their names, and then taught them 10 characters in the exercises. She was ready to go up the mountain this afternoon. "Brother, I plan to go into the mountains to find medicinal materials this afternoon. You take them with you. If I don't come back, you will continue as usual every day." "Xiao Sier, let's go with you," Yu Heiran said immediately. Yuan stared at them. "Are you sure you're not going to be a charlatan?" The brothers suddenly became wilted. "Okay, practice well at home and try to follow me up the mountain as soon as possible." Yuan couldn't bear to see them like this. "Okay," Yu Hao raised his chest and looked at Yuan. Yuan went over and patted him on the head. "That's pretty much it. Just practice, I'm leaving." She went directly to the door. The doorkeeper Zhang Chunyu opened the door and asked, "Miss Fourth, are you going out?" "Well, I'm not at home, and no one from our family is allowed in." Yuan was afraid that if she left, people from the old house would make trouble, and no one would be able to withstand it. 4 days have passed. Lao Yutu and the others should have discovered that the box was missing, right? Yes, I remember this. Zhang Chunyu saw his fourth lady breaking stones with her bare hands, and he was afraid that the fourth lady would be unhappy. If you pinch your own neck, it will kill you. Yuan walked out of the gate and went straight to Zhuangzi, North Street. After 2 sticks of incense, Yuan came to the door of Zhuangzi and saw a commotion in front of the door. A wave of people were banging on the door. One person shouted angrily, open the door quickly. If you don't open the door, I will break it down today. This door. Yes, Mom, Zipai, no one is opening the door today. Master Hong wants you to know why the flowers are so red, a man in a blue gown shouted. Seeing that they were about to break down the door, Yuan stepped forward quickly, jumped up, and pulled down the man in black who was about to break down the door. Everyone saw a figure flash past, and the tall body of the man in black was suddenly pulled by his clothes by the figure, and turned in a circle to face everyone. Yuan stopped, stood behind the man in black, and hit an acupuncture point on his spine behind him with a dagger. Then the man stood there motionless. Everyone was stunned by Yuan's operation. It took a long time for the man in green to point at her and say, You, who are you? Don't mind your grandfather's business and get out of the way, otherwise your grandfather will be rude to you. End of this chapter.